Shalom, 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 and welcome. Welcome to Unity Protocols. My brothers and sisters, do you honestly believe end times will come without specific details and tasks that the Almighty Father would have for his children? Do we honestly believe a body of one with many members would not require work that involves building unity, work that is necessary for the development and the rise of 144,000 Hebrews or Abarim and a great multitude as mentioned in Revelation 7 chapter? For I believe in the final Exodus, my brothers and sisters, that it will indeed occur before the physical return of Yahusha Mashiach. Here in Anytime Unity Protocols, a series of messages which speak on specific tasks and details, things we must be aware of. This is the 30th installment, and it is designed to bring our attention to the swing. Yes, the swing. We need to learn how to walk in such a way we will avoid the swing or get off the swing. My brothers and sisters, so this installment, the swing, avoid or get off, allow me to re-emphasize that there's much work to be done. Let me begin by reading Ephesians 4:11 through 4:16. It reads as follows: And he himself gave some emissaries, some prophets, some evangelists, and some as shepherds and teachers, for the perfecting of the set-apart ones, to the work of service, to a building up of the body of Messiah, until we all come to the unity of the belief and of the knowledge of the Son of the Almighty One, to a perfect man, to the measure of the stature of the completeness of Messiah, so that we should no longer be children, tossed to and fro about every wind of teaching by the trickery of men in cleverness unto the craftiness of leading astray, but maintaining the truth in love, we grow up in all respects into him who is the head, Messiah, from whom the entire body joined and knit together by what every joint supplies, according to the working by which each part does its share, causes growth of the body for the building up of itself in love. My brothers and sisters, seek to discern the life, and these words will confirm that there is much work to be done. Since end times have arrived, we find that the stirring of the Spirit of Yahuah in Yahusha's name is active within our beings, moving us to do things, guiding us to read, to study, and pray continuously with him. My brothers and sisters, moving from one community, one camp or fellowship or assembly, etc., to another, seeking the right place is unwise. Sure, the scriptures inform us of assembling together, but many are jumping from one camp to the next, one community to the other, at least communities that will allow them to come in it. Many are starting their own communities, their own camps and fellowships. I say to you, my brothers and sisters, as we find ourselves awakening, the question is, how many of us has pursued to discern the voice of the Spirit of Yahuah? How many of us has studied and prayed to get a good footing before we start visiting all these different camps and communities, fellowships? You see, there are wicked mores and teachers. There are wicked individuals who would have you think by throwing the scripture at you about not forsaking assembly that you need to get in fellowship. You need to get in assembly. This is wicked, my brothers and sisters. When they fail to say, seek him first, and then seek to discern his guidance as it relates to the assembly. No, they're throwing these verses at people, and people are jumping into assemblies and fellowships, unlearned, undiscerning, at the very least, the right direction to go. And they use this verse often. Hebrews 10:24 and 25. It says, and let us be concerned for one another in order to stir up love and good works, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together, as is the habit of some, but encouraging and so much more as you see the day coming near. Beware, O Yasharal, beware of erroneous teachers, erroneous mores, pastors, prophets, erroneous individuals who would tell you you need to get in fellowship You need to not forsake the assembling together without encouraging you first to study and discern what you must do, what we must do. Rarely do I see anyone informing individuals to discern the presence of the body, to seek, to examine the camp, the body, after you're prayed up, studied up. Yes, you will learn in going to assemblies where they preach or teach. You will learn in some cases by giving a person attention, your attention. But make no mistake, my brothers and sisters, excuses will not be acceptable. For the Almighty Father, as his vessels, desires us to seek to discern him. Rarely do I witness anyone strongly emphasizing the need to get to know the Almighty Father. And as I mentioned before, I heard a guy who claims to be a developer of priests and kings, claim to be a moray. Well, he probably is a moray because he's teaching some, but he's teaching some erroneous things. And he made the comment, no such thing as a personal relationship with Yahusha HaMashiach. And he might not have said Yahusha HaMashiach, but he did indeed say that the personal relationship thing is a Christian thing. I say to you, O Yasharal, each of us individually have a task. Each of us individually will receive the reproof and correction necessary to bind us together as one body in Yahushua HaMashiach. How many of us are aware that in Galatians 1:15 through 18, it talks about an experience that Shaul or Paul had? Let me read it, my brothers and sisters. Galatians chapter 1:15 through 18. It says, "But when it pleased the Almighty One who separated me from my mother's womb and called me by his favor to reveal his Son in me, that I might bring him the good news to the nations, I did not immediately consult with flesh and blood." Notice he didn't say he went running to camps, assemblies. He didn't fall for the okie doke. He said he didn't immediately confer with flesh and blood, consult. He goes on to say in 17 and 18, "Neither did I go up to Jerusalem to those who were emissaries before me, but I went to Arabia and returned again to Damascus. Then after 3 years, I went up to Jerusalem to learn from Kepha," some translations say Peter, "and remained with him 15 days. You see, my brothers and sisters, jumping into fellowships and assembly prematurely can be dangerous. Let me continue to read an example of what Shaul or Paul experienced. Acts, come with me to Acts chapter 9, verse 3 through 6. Acts chapter 9, verse 3 through 6. It reads as follows, "And it came to be that as he journeyed, he came near Damascus, and suddenly a light flashed around him from heaven. And he fell to the ground and heard a voice saying to him, 'Shaul, Shaul, why do you persecute me?' And he said, 'Who are you, Master?' And the Master said, 'I am Yahusha, whom you persecute. It is hard for you to kick against the prods.' But both trembling and being astonished, he said, 'Master, what do you wish me to do?' And the Master said to him, 'Arise and go into the city, and you shall be told what you have to do.'" My brothers and sisters, I want to bring your attention to that 4th verse. When we're talking about an experience Shaul had, many know it as the road to Damascus, Paul's road to Damascus, his conversion. Notice in the 4th verse it said, "And he fell to the ground and heard a voice saying," I submit to you, my brothers and sisters, he had an experience that caused him to fall to his knees. If you search the scriptures, the conditions that are described regarding end times and the tribulation or the great tribulation. You have heard me talk about extreme humbling times are coming. I submit to you, we will experience times when we will fall to the ground. And in falling to the ground in physical and mental weakness, we will witness our ability to hear the voice of the Spirit of Yahusha. Shaul fell to the ground, and then he heard. Notice, my brothers and sisters, what it said. in the 6th verse, both trembling and being astonished. See, the fear of Yahuah is the beginning of knowledge. As it is written, this will happen to us, my brothers and sisters. We will experience some things that will bring about a fear of Yahuah if we find ourselves ignoring the need to fear him, to reverence him, to seek him. And when I say him, my brothers and sisters, we must be mindful that as his vessels, he will work and speak through us. Are we not greater than the donkey? He opened the mouth of a donkey. Are we not greater than stones? It is said that if necessary, he would cause the stones to cry out. Notice, my brothers and sisters, like I said, Paul was weakened. Shaul was weakened before he heard the voice. Let me continue, my brothers and sisters. Keep in mind, the subject of this matter is the swing, avoid it or get off. You see, people go from one extreme to the next. People go from one camp to the next. This is as though they are on a swing, swinging back and forth, not being made straight. If you doubt such a thing is dangerous, consider 2 Thessalonians 2:3 that says, let no one deceive you in any way, because the falling away is to come first. And the man of lawlessness is to be revealed, the son of perdition. My brothers and sisters, there's much to be said about the beast and the anti-Messiah. And many of us who are concerned or discerning, whose spirit are stirring, have witnessed individuals going from one camp to the next, from one moray to the next, from one bishop or pastor to the next, trying to find the right one that fits them. But all too often, they're trying to find what fits their taste, so to speak, versus what is the Spirit of the Most High saying regarding the matter. Have they had an Arabian event? Have they had a time to pray and study in a little one-on-one to discover the voice of the Spirit of Yahusha? Do they understand that by reading the scriptures in prayer that he makes the scriptures alive, and this is how he reveals his presence to us, as well as through others? For it is written, how could one know unless there's, it talks about a preacher. So I don't want to misquote, but that is said within the scriptures. But it doesn't say, because you have to hear, you got to go to the preacher. It doesn't say join that camp or assembly right away. So yes, you would, we would. There are times we do hear preaching, but running from camp to camp to camp, my brothers, will prove to be unfruitful and a waste of time in many occasions. There are those who look back at the mistakes from jumping into one camp and say, if I would have taken the time, I would have never been a part of this assembly, this community. My brothers and sisters, Proverbs 4:25 says, let your eyelids look forward and your eyelids look straight before you. My brothers and sisters, I want to read these 4 passages and expound on them, but let me read all 4 of them. Proverbs 4:25, let your eyes look forward and your eyelids look straight before you. Colossians 4:5, walk in wisdom toward those who are outside, redeeming the time. That was Colossians 4:5. 1 John 4:1. Believe one, do not believe every spirit, but prove the spirits whether they are of the Almighty One, because many false prophets have gone out into the world. 1 Corinthians 11:31. For if we were to examine ourselves, we would not be judged. That was 1 Corinthians 11:31. 2 Corinthians 13:5. Examine yourselves whether you are in the belief. Prove yourselves, or you do not know yourself that Yahusha Messiah is in you, unless you are disproved. Yasharal, it would be wise to recognize the life in the scriptures, for the Spirit of Yahusha is an endless stream of instructions. It would be wise to realize that end times bring intensity that demands degrees of maturity that we have never expected would be placed on us. My brothers and sisters, as we are amazed, as our curiosities are fed, as we see historical things that have occurred, the mistreatment of our children, the mistreatment of our forefathers, our mothers, our family members who came centuries before us, years before us, there is a time, my brothers and sisters, where we will realize, looking back too long and too much, could be a dangerous thing. Do not find yourselves overtaken with pressing with the history when there's so much more ahead of us. Yasharal, it would be wise to realize there's so much work to be done. I'm not saying ignore history, but don't spend all of your time on how we were treated as slaves. You know, some will just throw away, I keep on doing history. I'm going to keep on doing history. And they'll say, without knowing your history, you don't know where you're going. My brothers and sisters, there are those charged to bring about things that were hidden, but not everyone is directed to spend a lot of time on history, historical experiences and conditions. My brothers and sisters, moving forward, we must be mindful and take heed. Matthew 24th chapter talks about taking heed so no one leads you astray. It says that many will come in my name saying, I am the Messiah, and they shall lead many astray. My brothers and sisters, are we on that swing? Are we swinging back and forth, being led astray, not realizing that it's time to get off that swing? Matthew 29, 9 through 12 say, and then they shall deliver you up for affliction and kill you, and you shall be hated by all nations for my name's sake. And then many shall stumble, and they shall deliver up one another, and shall hate one another, and many false prophets shall rise up and lead many astray. And because of the increase in lawlessness, the love of many shall become cold. Luke 21 also speaks of end times and things to expect. It also speaks about being betrayed by parents, brothers, and relatives and their friends. Some will even cause us to be put to death. My brother, and I was saying Luke 21. My brothers and sisters, the questions are arising among many who seek, but are uninformed, unlearned, or unable to discern the voice of the Spirit of Yahusha. There are questions rising up on what must I be doing? What am I supposed to be doing? What is my gift? What is my calling? What am I chosen to do? Be encouraged, for the Almighty Father knows the intent. The Almighty Father hath made assignments, and he hath chosen us as he see fit. Did we meet some academic qualifications to be one used by the Most High? No, we can't say we purchased that task, that we purchased that position. It is something that the Most High have for us. Let me read, O Yasharal, Hebrews 12, 1 and 2. It says, we often then, having so great a cloud of witnesses all around us, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which is so easily entangles us, and let us run with endurance the race set before us, looking to the Prince and Perfecter of our belief, Yahusha, who for the joy that was set before him endured the stake, having despised the shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of the Almighty One. Some versions will say that Yahusha it reads that looking unto Yahusha, it used the pagan name to hide Yahusha's name and say the author and finisher of our faith. My brothers and sisters, swinging back and forth is not the answer. It's time to know how to equip ourselves. One way to avoid it is vet, examine up front. Don't spend so much time looking at what everyone else is doing. Inquire of the moray. Ask questions of the moray. Ask the teacher questions. Ask the pastor, the bishop, the shepherds, the influential ones. Ask questions. And I've mentioned before how if you understood the purpose of the feast times, you will see that it is a great vetting tool to those who are alive and understand and able to discern. For instance, Passover. If someone want to talk to you about a harvest and they don't even believe in Passover, how can we have a fruitful conversation? If someone want to talk about blowing a trumpet and we have not recognized Passover as the instructions that brought us to life, we have not recognized unleavened bread as the feast that's telling us we need to discern between good and evil. If we haven't recognized first fruits, realizing that some people get it before others, how can we be blowing these trumpets, my brothers and sisters? You see, step by step, there are ways to vet. If a person's talking about the tabernacle of Yahuah, that we are that tabernacle, but yet they have no clue about Passover, first fruits, harvest, unleavened bread. So the purpose in the feast times has a literal purpose, but it also has a spiritual purpose. Something that can be passed generation to generation, something that can be recognized and honored no matter whether you're in captivity or not. My brothers and sisters, the time is now to recognize what we are facing, what we are being prepared for. Let us be mindful of John 44 and 45. No one is able to come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him, and I shall raise him up in the last day. It has been written in the prophets, and they shall all be taught by Yahuah. Everyone then who has heard from the Father and learned comes to me. Notice what I just read regarding everyone who has heard and learned comes to Yahusha. I want to also bring your attention that John 12:32 says, and if I am lifted up from the earth, shall draw all men to myself. This is Yahusha being quoted by John or Yochanan. Some will say Yochanan. Are experiencing wandering thoughts? Are we experiencing wandering thoughts? Have our attention left the messages that are brought before us? Have I lost your attention regarding the swing, the importance of avoiding it or get off of it? It is time to begin to practice vetting, my brothers and sisters. There are those who would quickly have you believe that we win souls or we lead people to Yahushua Mashiach. Beware of such, for these are thieves seeking to get credit for what the Almighty Father Yahuah has done through them. We don't win souls, and we don't lead people to Yahusha. They're drawn. Now, what we may be is contributors to the words of set apartness to people, but this is the Almighty Father that draws them. It's the Almighty Father that will use us in the leading of one to himself. But many want to stop and get credit. Oh yeah, we won 100 souls today. I won a soul. Yes, we hear that widely among those who continue to pursue beliefs and practices outside of the teachings of the Almighty Father. But even among Yasharal, there are those who would believe that they are the developers of priests and kings. They are the developers of strong leaders, notwithstanding that the Spirit works in us one towards another. Remember what I said about Shaul road to Damascus. Something caused him to fall to the ground. I'd say Yahuah caused him to fall to the ground. And it was then and only then that he heard the voice saying to him. My brothers and sisters, if you doubt that there will be times of falling to the ground, consider what is described. I mentioned that earlier. To avoid the swing, learn how to vet, ask questions, learn the importance of being patient, my brothers and sisters. In due season, the Most High will bring us together, those whom He is drawing. We will come together, O Yasharal. Be encouraged, my brothers and sisters, out of the active judgment and discipline from the Almighty Father Yahuah. Through a set-apart spirit sent in Yahushua's name, we will rise. We will rise to the occasion of martyrdom, where we will die for Yahushua's name, or possibly be in the ranks of those gathered from the four corners of the earth. Some of us will die a physical death before such actions become intense. I say to you, we just may be surprised that we just may be just surprised of how the 144,000 Hebrews, 12,000 from each of the 12 tribes, and great multitude will come together. We may be surprised to find that we may be in that rank. Proof is over the horizon. We must and will recognize this swing that exists among us. We will be used to restore one and help one get off that swing, jumping from one extreme to the next. My brothers and sisters, the truth has been fragmented in many ways. In the coming days, we will see the crumbs, the pieces begin to come together and take shape. And we will see a set-apart nation arise up beyond what is being currently taught. We will see a set-apart group of people so phenomenal, my brothers and sisters, that the envy of the world would be such that they would gather in Megiddo and then seek to march against those that have been gathered from the four corners of the earth. Truth be told, my brothers and sisters, I was first pondering and praying while waiting for the Spirit of Yahusha to respond to a question in terms of how I was to entitle this message. I was thinking about titling it Escape the Pendulum Effect. Escape the Pendulum Effect. And it was as though the Spirit of Yahusha said to me, by using the word pendulum, it would not make sense to some. Make it simple so one would understand. And I was compelled to use the word swing. My brothers and sisters, come. It's time to stop playing around on the swing. It's time to restore those who are captivated by the swing. It's time to equip ourselves with what is necessary to avoid getting back on or getting on a swing, going from one extreme to the another. Yasharal, oh Yasharal, know this. End time prophecies will make our footsteps straight. Our ways will be made straight. The 144,000 and great multitude will come together in unity. Trust and believe that the Almighty Father will indeed make us straight, will indeed give us the strength, the fortitude, the wisdom, and the knowledge to avoid playing, moving about on a swing. Until next time, my brothers and sisters, I invite your communications, your questions, your comments, if and only if you believe you are being led to do so. I invite you to continue to witness the messages that I am compelled to present before an awakening set-apart people. Until next time, O Yasharal, O set-apart listener, O set-apart ones of the Almighty Father Yahuah. Until next time, I bid you, my brother, my sister, much shalom.